Hey everyone, I'm Chris, the Third Coast Craftsman, and as always, I'm with my trusty shop partner, Oots. And today we're going to be building a sliding dovetail side table. Should be awesome. Stick around. Let's get started. The first thing I want to do is measure out the size of the top, and I found a glass dish in the kitchen that's going to be a nice size. Then I'm going to take an axe and chop off some of this extra material that I don't need so that I can manage this slab a little bit better. I'm sure my neighbors love me. It's like 7 in the morning right now. Here we go. Now I'm going to use the bandsaw to get the slab cut down even further. So this slab was cut using a chainsaw, and both the top and bottom surface are really uneven. So I'm going to go to work using this plane that I converted into a scrub plane to remove a bunch of material and make both surfaces flat and parallel to each other. A scrub plane, for those of you who don't know, is a plane that has a really round cambered blade like that, and it's used to remove a lot of material at once.
Three hours later.
Now that the bottom is flat, I can take it over to the bandsaw and cut out the shape, and that'll ensure that the sides of this table are 90 degrees to the bottom. Now I can take that hand plane again and make sure the top is flat and parallel to the bottom. Now I'm going to begin cutting the legs. Unfortunately, the piece of oak that I cut off in the beginning wasn't quite long enough to make the legs out of, so I ran to my local hardwood dealer and found these big pieces of ash that hopefully will work nicely. I cut this little guide that I'll use to lay out the sliding dovetails, and I'll also use this guide later on to help finish doing the final cutting of the dovetail. So these are going to kind of be like a half blind sliding dovetail. Just kind of sketched it up and thought it would look cool, so going with that. And I'm taking the saw and kind of cutting down as far as I can to help the chiseling out later on. Now it's time for all the chisel work. I'm going to start by paring out the bottom shoulder and creating a really nice deep knife wall so that there's no risk of tear out or break out when I start chiseling from the top. Now that most of the waste is removed, I'll use that guide that I used to lay out the dovetails as something to register my chisel against so that I can pare in and get a perfect, flat, even dovetail.
Ooh, squirrel!
So this is what I'm going to do to lay out the sliding dovetails. I made these a little bit long so that I could cut off a little sliver of it at the top and use these as my templates to lay out the sliding dovetail. You can't use the legs necessarily because everything would kind of be backwards. If I lay the leg upside down on the top like this little right corner, when you flip it upside down, and when it comes through the bottom, it'll be the left corner. So to measure out where the legs would be, I took a string and measured out the circumference of the top. Then I divided it by 3, and I used that to get even spacing on all 3 of my legs. Now I'll clamp this little guide to the top so it doesn't move. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to have it like recessed into the top a little bit. I've never seen anything like that before, so I thought I'd give it a try. Now I'm going to use a bandsaw and remove most of this material, and then I'll finish the rest of it by hand with a chisel. So now that I only have a little bit of waste material left, I'll drop my chisel into the knife line that I made earlier and use a scrap piece of wood that's 90 degrees to register my chisel against. And then when I chop down, I know that my mortise is going to be perfectly square. After a little bit of fine tuning, they all fit really nice. Before I glue the legs to the top, I'm going to shape the legs and kind of give them just a slight taper. Now with a Japanese saw, I'll cut the legs so that they're flush with the top. So I thought about filling all the holes with epoxy and kind of making more of a smooth surface, but ultimately I just decided to go with some Danish oil, which I use on a lot of projects because it's so simple and easy to use. And I also thought about adding a shelf to the bottom, but was just kind of ready to move on with this project and get done with it. Those are things I can always go back and do later, so let me know what you think. If you think a bottom shelf would look good, or if you think epoxy would look good, filling all the voids in the top. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions. Well everyone, there you go. This little side table turned out pretty cool. It's a little more modern than I was going for, but it was a fun experiment. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. If you're new to the channel, maybe consider subscribing and click that little bell icon if you want to get notifications for when I put out new videos. So thanks again. You guys have a good one. See ya.